are as relevant today as they were 30 years ago. Despite the latest unprecedented challenges we face, the Portuguese House of Democracy will continue to host this 25th North-South Prize Award ceremony for the first time with a hybrid format. Follow the live streaming to join remotely the laureates and a very limited number of personalities accompanying their excellencies, the President of the Portuguese Republic, the President of the Portuguese Parliament, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, and the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe.
Good morning to everybody. I declare this session open. President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, who is with us from Strasbourg, President of the Delegation of the Portuguese Parliament to the Council of Europe, President of the Executive Committee of the North-South Centre, Laureate Nabila Hamza, Laureate Luca Orlando, who joins us from Palermo, Ambassador of the Italian Republic in Lisbon, here representing Laureate Luca Orlando, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, Executive Director of the North-South Centre, Deputy Speakers of the Portuguese Parliament, Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. Today, Portugal is mourning the loss of Eduardo Lourenço, the teacher, philosopher, critic, and essayist, who yesterday, the day of the restored country, left us at the age of 97. Eduardo Lourenço was without doubt the person who best reflected our national identity, what it is to be Portuguese, what differentiates us as citizens and as a people at a universal level. In a word of longing, saudade, in a word which everything is fleeting, but is in permanent change. He was born on the 23rd of May, 1923 in São Pedro do Rio Seco in Guarda, deep inland in Portugal. Eduardo Lourenço de Faria leaves a legacy which comes from a great published oeuvre, but also in the fields of education, culture, citizenship, and has been widely recognized for countless prizes and decorations, and 2016 in such a symbolic way by being incorporated into the Council of State at the suggestion of the President of the Portuguese Republic, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, who cannot be with us today precisely because he is giving the last homage of the Portuguese state and people to Eduardo Lourenço at the funeral which is taking place at the Jerónimos Monastery in Lisbon. Ladies and gentlemen, in tribute to one of the greatest intellectual referents of the Portuguese language, in memory of Eduardo Lourenço, I ask you to take a minute's silence. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome, first of all of those who join us remotely through the Canal Parlamento, the Council of Europe platform, or the social networks, and who can't be with us, at least physically, in the Senate room of São Bento Palace, which is the home of the Portuguese Parliament. Applying the tight rules which have been laid down for the operation of our institutions during the state of emergency, which has been in place in Portugal since the 9th of November. The extraordinary circumstances that we face during a pandemic with no borders has not prevented us from affirming the importance of the ceremony and the importance of the North-South Prize of the Council of Europe. This is a prize which honors two personalities, one from the North and the other from the South, for their commitment to human rights, to democracy and rule of law, contributing to North-South dialogue, cementing solidarity, interdependence and partnership, which for the 25th time is being awarded at the Portuguese Parliament. Although we have a small number of guests and participants today, the award ceremony for the North-South Prize 2019 has been made possible thanks to the dedication of the institutions and bodies involved, especially the President of Portugal, who, although he can't be with us today, has sent us a message. Holding this ceremony in the midst of a pandemic has two great points of importance in my view. The importance which Portugal gives to the existence of a European Centre for Interdependence and Global Solidarity, the North-South Centre of the Council of Europe, which was founded in 1990 with its headquarters in Lisbon. Its aim is to promote a dialogue between the North and the South, encouraging solidarity and increasing the awareness of independence throughout the world, and the ongoing operation of our institutions, which did not close at all during the pandemic, but instead have resulted in alterations in the way in which our powers and responsibilities are exercised and the way in which our activity is run. And this ceremony is a good example of that. Ladies and gentlemen, the words of the Speaker of the Portuguese Parliament in the award ceremony for the North-South Prize traditionally are just words of welcome and moderation, but do allow me to say a few words. To the 2019 laureates, Nabila Hamza, present here, and Luca L'Orlando, who is accompanying us from Palermo and is represented here by the Italian ambassador, Carlo Formosa. Laureates who, following on from Mary Robinson, Graça Machel, Emma Bonino, Sam Vale, recording just some of the women prize winners, and Pop Geldof, Kofi Annan, Shannon Guzman, and Joaquin Chissano, a few of the men, are here to be recognized for their commitment to the defense of human rights and rule of law, especially for the rule of the rights of women in the case of Nabila Hamza, and the rights of migrants for Luca L'Orlando. These are two reference points in their communities for the transformation that they have led, which has gained scale and relevance throughout their nations. Mário Soares, former president of Portugal and 2000 North-South Prize winner, said that you're only beaten if you stop fighting. For her action, I would say that for decades, Nabila Hamza, their actions, Nabila and Luca L'Orlando have demonstrated that there is still those people who don't stop fighting, and they work for the positive on my behalf and on behalf of the Portuguese Parliament, representing Portuguese society and its diversity. Thank you very much. On behalf of the North-South Assembly, now we will hear the Ambassador Manuel Montalbillo. President of Portugal, Speaker of the Portuguese Parliament, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, President of the Council of Europe, President of the Portuguese delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Secretary of State, Laureate, both laureates and the ambassador to Italy. We live in extraordinary times, a time of pandemic, a time of change, a time of change. It's a time where we become aware that we are all one person on the same planet. A time to remember what Luis de Camões said in the first canto of the Lusíadas. In the sea, so much storm, so much damage, so many times unexpected death, where there may be human weakness, and where life can be short. And as we fight against as the earth fights against such a small animal, the sermon human being, a time of storm, where light shows ourselves the way forward, the stars. And this expresses very well the sense of the North-South Center, recognizing the acts of people and highlighting a star, a reference point who has guided us all collectively, who shows that it is possible to change and calls upon us not to give up. Examples of solidarity, of overcoming one's own limitations, of the will to go beyond both North and South, supporting human rights, of commitment to democracy and the rule of law, development and peace, to be a beacon for our hope. This is common to both laureates, and it has been the case for more than 25 years in the North-South Prize. And we recognize both Luca Orlando and Nabila Hamza, and we are awarding them for who they are, what they have done, and we are saying thank you to Luca Orlando for showing us which person is inside each immigrant, because he wants these people to be involved in the life of Palermo, showing European citizens how integration works by integrating in the Charter of Palermo the right to international mobility, by embodying at a level close to citizens the public authorities committed to human rights of all human beings which depend on them. Thank you very much for what you have done. Thank you, Nabila Hamza, for her fight for the rights of women, to remind us that solidarity of gender is not achieved. Whether we are men or women, we are the same people. We need democracy to realize human rights, and make sure that democracy and commitment to human rights can be found within institutions. Thank you very much to both of you for shining the light of solidarity on both sides of the Mediterranean, because you have shown that the Mediterranean is a sea of encounters, and you are committed to the Declaration of Barcelona. As we celebrate our 25th anniversary, which has been the purpose of the North-South Centre during all of that time. At this time of shadow, but in this city, which Saramago located his essay on blindness, we are learning so much about our human condition, and I would like to thank, therefore, Nabila Hamza and Luca Orlando for being stars, for showing us in the North and South, showing us the importance of their history and bringing their voices to become our own voices. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair of the North-South Centre Committee. And now I will ask the representative of the President of the Portuguese delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Pedro Bacelar Vasconcelos. Speaker of the House, thank you. I would like to greet everybody present here today. President of the Parliamentary Committee of the Council of Europe, Executive Director of the North-South Centre, those who aren't with us here in person, but who are following us remotely, are Laureate Nabila Hamza and Luca Orlando's representative here, the ambassador of Italy here in Lisbon, MPs, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. North-South is a transversal direction leading to all latitudes and heads from one pole to another. By mere chance, who knows, perhaps through some kind of mysterious predestination, our two North-South Prize laureates here today, Luca Orlando and Nabila Hamza, were born opposite each other, one on the north and one and the other on the southern shore of the Mediterranean, at their closest points, one in Sicily, on the heel of Europe, and the other in the Gulf of Tunis, near to the ruins of Carthage. Both they personify a singular geography which reconciles two hemispheres of the planet, whose division began 2,000 years ago with the Punic Wars, with the fight between Romans and Carthaginians for domination of shipping across the Mediterranean Sea. This sea, which belongs to three continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe, and which, through the Straits of Gibraltar, opens onto the Atlantic and the Americas to the west. Also, the ancient narrative of Sapiens Sapiens was written from south to north and from east to west. Countless wars and massacres and the most ferocious ambition, greed have soaked the most recent centuries with blood. It's a time of change and to find solidarity which can last forever. Off Sicily, there is an island which symbolizes the greatest tragedy of our time, Lampedusa. This is the homeland of the author of the great far-sighted novel, The Leopard, Giuseppe Thomas, which inspired the masterpiece film by Luchino Visconti of the same name. Lampedusa is a distant port, and it is a terrible memorial to the fate of unfortunate refugees who are trying to find a safe harbor for their concerns, but many only found the peace and tranquility they sought for at the bottom of the sea. It is an honor for the Portuguese delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe to be here to witness the award of the North-South Prize to Nabia Amiza, feminist from Tunisia, dedicated to the fight for gender equality, which has not fully survived the ill-fated Arab Spring, and Luca Orlando, mayor of Palermo, tireless defender for human rights of immigrants in his city and access to citizenship. For both, our most sincere gratitude.
I will now give the floor to the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Maria Pjasinovic-Buric, who will be speaking to us from Strasbourg. You have the floor.
Le Président de l'Assemblée de la République du Portugal,
President of the Assembly of the Republic of Portugal, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe,
Mesdames,
distinguished parliamentarians of the Portuguese Assembly of the Republic, distinguished laureates of the North-South Prize, Chair of the Executive Committee of the North-South Centre.
oui. Vous m'attendez?
Can you hear me? Madam Secretary General is asking if you can hear her. We can hear you perfectly well. Thank you. I will proceed then. Chair of the Executive Committee of the North-South Centre, Executive Director of the North-South Centre, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to congratulate Nabila Hamza and Luca Orlando on winning this year's North-South Prize. Both of these distinguished individuals have demonstrated their deep commitment to human rights, democracy, and the rule of law,
Le Conseil de l'Europe,
values that underpin the Council of Europe and indeed this award. Ms. Hamza, you were selected by the jury in recognition of your strong leadership in advancing the reform of Tunisian family law. As Executive Director of the Center of Arab Women for Training and Research, you have played a pioneering role in raising awareness of women's issues and rights, in addressing misconceptions, and in advancing gender equality.
pour une société
More than that, you have advocated for a stronger civil society and for the full participation of women in public life, and you have led by example. As one of the first women elected to a local council in Tunisia, you are demonstrating to women throughout your country and beyond that for a democracy to be complete, it needs women to be among those who take decisions in public life. Mr. Orlando, Your award has been given in recognition of your work to support the integration of migrants and to reinforce human rights and the rule of law at local level. In particular, I know that the jury had in mind the Palermo Charter that you created in 2015 in defense of international mobility. And the Council of Culture's Advisory Board that you established as a means for migrants to elect representatives that give voice to their concerns, to their needs, and their views. These are important and groundbreaking initiatives. But here too, there is more to say. As city mayor during the Palermo Spring, you denounced mafia practices. You pushed for dialogue and civic renewal in what became known as the Palermo Renaissance. And in working for fairness, for social justice, and for good governance, and against corruption and social and economic damage that always accompanies it, you have fought for what is right, sometimes at personal risk.
The decision on this year's winners was in fact taken back in 2019. Since then, Europe and the wider world have confronted the terrible reality of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think it is right to acknowledge that the response by this year's winners only affirms the good judgment in presenting them with the North-South Prize. In Mrs. Hamza's town, La Marsa, she has supported a coherent response to the crisis and the definition of a social and health plan that has paid specific attention to the needs of the most vulnerable groups. And Mr. Orlando has also championed the needs of those people, spoken out about the danger of mafia resurgence, and called for international solidarity and a Marshall Plan for Europe. The struggle for human rights, democracy, and the rule of law is never won. It is an unending battle fought over and over in the face of changing and often daunting circumstances. We see that today, and we are fortunate to have Nabila Hamza and Luca Orlando with us steadfast in the fight. In winning this prize, they join a list of 50 remarkable laureates chosen from both hemispheres over the course of 25 years. They comprise a rich and diverse array of experience and talent, but they share a common outlook and uncommon abilities and achievements. We owe them a great deal for what they have contributed, just as we owe our profound thanks to the Portuguese authorities for their rich and long-standing support for both the North-South Prize and the work of the Council of Europe's North-South Centre. In the interest of us all, may the bridges it builds be ever stronger. Again, my congratulations to the prize winners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary General of the Council of Europe. I now give the floor to the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Mr. Rick Dames. You have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished laureates, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe joins the mourning of Eduardo Laureates. Europe and Portugal's place in Europe appears again and again in Lourenço's work. And O Labirinto da Saudade is a formidable example of a critical discourse about the images that we ourselves have forged. Although from 1978, that's over 14 years ago, how incredibly pertinent and timeless this work is still today. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to participate in the award ceremony of the North-South Prize. For 25 years, the North-South Prize has been recognized, or has been recognizing women and men who made an outstanding contribution to promoting North-South solidarity, to upholding human rights, and developing dialogue between cultures and societies. Now, human rights and fundamental freedoms are universal. They are indivisible, they're interdependent and interrelated. Therefore, in times of the COVID-19 pandemic, solidarity, including between North and South, acquires a special importance. Because in the global and interconnected world that we live in, the COVID-19 public health emergency affects each and every one of us. Every individual must enjoy dignity and enjoy equal fundamental rights and freedoms. This is the basic principle on which a humane and human rights-based society can thrive. If there is one lesson that we have learned from the pandemic, it is the importance of multilateralism and international cooperation. Unilateral action does not bring sustainable, effective, or sufficient solutions. Again, unilateral action does not. Multilateral action does. Solidarity and fundamental values, these two notions, should guide our action in response to the crisis. Solidarity, because no one can cope with the crisis alone, and it is our duty to help each other in these difficult times. Fundamental values, because democracy, human rights, rule of law cannot be allowed to become collateral damage to the pandemic. Isolationism or reduced rights should not become a new normal. Respect for fundamental rights, fundamental freedoms, as well as the legal safeguards of the rule of law are the absolute red lines not to be crossed, even in times of emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, our commitment to solidarity and human dignity can be best demonstrated through individual action where it is most needed, which basically illustrates the importance of the awards of the North-South Prize and to their laureates. I wish to praise Mrs. Nabila Hamza, present here, for her tireless efforts to combat inequalities, to uphold gender equality, and to promote sustainable development, in particular by advocating against climate change. Madam, your commitment and your efforts to address the environmental challenge is particularly dear to my heart, because environment, in my view, is a fundamental human right. Your outstanding contribution to upholding gender equality also deserves our deepest appreciation. This is especially true when we are marking the days of activism against violence against women. We must stay united to combat this foul scourge. Let me also congratulate Mr. Luca Orlando, the mayor of Palermo. If we were to think about an example of a challenge which requires North-South solidarity the most, migration comes first to our minds. When we think about migration, we think about, amongst others, Turkey, Greece, Malta, Italy, Spain, Portugal. countries that are on the front line of managing mixed migratory flows, which are rapidly growing, including due to climate change. Palermo is an outstanding example of successful integration of migrants. Thanks to Mr. Orlando's efforts, the city of Palermo has given a voice to migrants by associating them through the Council of Cultures to the management of the affairs of the city. This, in my view, is a great example of North-South dialogue and solidarity, and an initiative that deserves to be replicated. Mr. Speaker, honorable guests, laureates, solidarity, human dignity and fundamental rights and freedoms, as well as multilateral cooperation, these are the notions that are at the heart of the North-South process. The commitment of our two laureates is a great example of how individual action can help uphold universal, indivisible, interdependent and interrelated human rights and fundamental freedoms. Rightfully so, we pay tribute to their efforts through the North-South Prize, but above all, thanks to both of you for your valuable, very valuable contribution to human rights, fundamental freedoms, democracy and the rule of law, which are core to the work of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Congratulations, but above all, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. I will now be awarding the 2019 North-South Prize of the Council of Europe to the laureates, Nabila Hamza and Luca Orlando. His Excellency, the Speaker of the House of Parliament will now be awarding the 2019 North-South Prize of the Council of Europe to the laureates.
Recebe o Prémio Norte-Sul do Conselho da Europa 2019, a laureada.
Receiving the 2019 North-South Prize of the Council of Europe, the laureate Nabila Hamza.
Recebe o Prémio Norte-Sul do Conselho
And
da Europa.
receiving the 2019 North-South Prize of the Council of Europe, the laureate Luca Orlando, being represented by the Italian ambassador in Lisbon, Carlo Formosa. I will now give the floor to laureate Nabila Hamza.
Bonjour à tous.
Good morning to you all. Speaker of the House, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, President of the Executive Committee of the North-South Centre, President of the Portuguese delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Madam Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Portugal, Excellencies, Ambassadors. First of all, allow me to say how emotional I feel this morning on the occasion of this award ceremony. It is heartwarming to be recognized in this manner here in Portugal. Your House, Speaker of the House, has shown respect for the rights of migrants, for their dignity, and has taken measures to protect the most vulnerable in the response to COVID-19. I would also like to express my gratitude and extend a word of thanks to all the members of the jury for having awarded me this prize, which both honors me and encourages me to keep going. This great honor encourages me to stay the course I have chosen. And it also gives me the courage to continue on the journey that leads to the promotion and protection of human rights and to the granting of equal and full citizenship to women. Equality, as you know, remains in many respects no more than a statement of intent, even a utopia in many countries. I would also like to thank my friends. This prize is not just for me. I share it with the many women rights activists who in my country and elsewhere have been fighting relentlessly for decades to reform family codes that are anachronistic and backwards. They've been fighting for equality. They've denounced inequalities and sexism. They've condemned violence against women, demanding women's economic independence and participation in decision-making. There have been so many battles they have tirelessly fought for this cause. Today it is to them, in recognition of their battles and battles which many have taken up in their stead, that I want to dedicate this award. On a more personal note, I would like to express my gratitude to my parents who instilled in me the universal values of tolerance, solidarity, and social justice from early childhood, and sowed in me the seeds of deep-seated commitment. I think especially of my father, who would have been very proud to witness this recognition of my journey. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum takes place at the end of a difficult year, a year shaken by an unprecedented health and social crisis with serious consequences for all of humankind. Some governments are taking ever more drastic measures. The pandemic is forcing our institutions to act in emergency and uncertainty. The decisions taken to contain the virus have been perceived as necessary, but also often as ineffective, sometimes unilateral or destructive of freedom, as undermining our democracy, our freedom, and our system of governance. Hospitals lacking in resources, shortages of medicines and protective equipment, the welfare state caught on the back foot in the face of so many needs, so much distress. The spread of COVID-19 and containment measures have laid bare certain shortcomings of the state and public services. The crisis has also revealed the extent of gender inequalities and inequalities in terms of gender relations. We are all aware that the world has seen a terrible outbreak of domestic violence due to the pandemic and the successive confinements. Victims and perpetrators have been forced to cohabit in the same space. This increase in the rate of violence against women has coincided with the deterioration of public services. the closure of the courts, the absence or inaccessibility of shelters and support centers, the indifference of the police and the authorities. Inequality in gender relations has also been evident in the workplace. The health crisis has further exacerbated the traditional division of roles. Double the working day, women's unpaid labor is on the rise. What we call the care economy, all the tasks that have to do with childcare, taking care of the elderly, parents. For many women, reconciliation of paid telework and unpaid labor is a major challenge, and this is especially so for women who as single parents support their families. When schools, preschools are closed, how does one juggle earning a living with taking care of children, the disabled or the elderly? At the same time, the economic crisis caused by the pandemic has highlighted the growing inequalities in the world and has shown how widespread poverty and insecurity are. The extremely long queues of people waiting for emergency food aid, which we've seen everywhere, in every country and community, including in countries such as the United States, considered economic powerhouses. These queues have become a symbol of social distress. Those who are queuing for aid were not only the poorest working people, but also larger swathes of middle-class families who have had, for the first time, to join these queues, having to rely on this kind of aid for the first time in their lives. It would therefore be naive to think that once this medical emergency is over, countries or even the world will be able to continue as before, as if nothing had changed. Anger and bitterness will find, without a doubt, new outlets. This is why we urgently need to think about concepts, renewing them. We need to think about all that concerns intellectuals, activists, associations, governments. We need to rethink the role of the state and the community, to look again at the economic system and at the concept of the welfare state, including security, medical care, social protection, the care economy, the division of labor among women and men, and many other things. More than ever before, I think we need to think about climate change, globalization, our relationship with our closest neighbors, both in the north and the south. The pandemic is making us thinking about the world after this. Ladies and gentlemen, we saw terror re-emerge at the end of the year. We saw suffering. The assassination of Samuel Paty and the attacks in Nice and Vienna caused by terrorists inspired by Salafi jihadism and fanaticism. How did we get to this point? How do we react to the sudden eruption of fanatics from the depths of darkness in the world? We, feminists and human rights activists, both men and women alike, cannot remain indifferent to these odious acts committed in the name of God, which we strongly denounce. We believe that nothing at all justifies terrorism, not even blasphemy or contempt for the sacred. We feel all the more concerned because we, as Tunisians, have had to, in our own country, in the midst of a democratic transition, a difficult transition, we have had to defend our own freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom in terms of what we dress, freedom of opinion, and academic freedom. These have all been under attack, being threatened in our country. Our fight against obscurantism is the same everywhere, from north to south, here and elsewhere. In our associations, we hear the testimony of women and men every day, victims of those who, in the name of God, in the name of their own moral order, their religion, their convictions, murder, burn, kidnap, mutilate, beat, and kill. It is against this identity confinement and the violence that accompanies it that we fight today. Yes, we consider ourselves interested parties in the crimes that occur elsewhere. Not long ago, the leaders of the left, Shokri Belaid and Mohamed Brahmi, whose assassination shook post-revolutionary Tunisia in 2013, and many other victims fell in the same way under their blows and bullets. Even more recently, in a neighboring country 2 weeks ago, Hanan al-Barassi, a lawyer and feminist activist, was assassinated in Benghazi. Hanan was an ardent defender of women's rights and a courageous critic of armed groups and militias that violate human rights, sow death and destruction. No, European countries are not the only ones hit by terrorism. This despicable crime is further proof of the transnationalization of terrorism and terrorist movements, and it illustrates the dangers faced by human rights defenders who are working to stem it. As feminists, we believe even more firmly today that it is through solidarity and by building a collective emancipatory project, bringing progress for all, North and South, and through the strengthening of cooperation between both shores of the Mediterranean, that we will make obscurantism, terrorism, and all ideologies of hatred retreat. We reject with the same determination any exploitation of these dramatic events and all the hate speech spread by certain leaders, political forces, and media in Europe directed against migrants, as well as unacceptable deliberate associations aimed at laying the blame squarely at the foot of Muslim populations. No, they are not responsible and to be blamed. The barbaric acts committed belong only to their perpetrators and those who manipulate them or condone those acts or finance them. Ladies and gentlemen, rights and equal opportunities for women, a life free of violence, a life that is more just. These are the goals set by the Fourth World Conference on Women and by the Beijing Platform for Action in 1995. 25 years later, this gender equality has yet to be achieved anywhere. Globally, women still earn 24% less than men. However, they bear the main burden of what we call the care economy. They do the bulk of the care work. 1 woman in 3 suffers physical or sexual violence in her life. 5% of women in the world have been raped after the age of 15. This is UN data, not data I have come up with. Nearly 150 million girls today do not attend school. Young girls. 41% of the world's women live in countries that do not give them access to safe abortion. That's the case of Poland. I have to say a word here about Polish activists, men and women who have come out onto the streets to protest. Women occupy only 24% of parliamentary seats worldwide. I don't know how many there are in the European Parliament or in the Portuguese Parliament, but in the world, 24% is not enough. At the current pace, gender equality will only be achieved in 99.5 years' time, says the UN. In my country, despite the ongoing process of social reform since independence and since the inclusion of equality in the 2014 constitution, women still do not enjoy full equality in law, and a lot of discrimination persists in the granting of marriage rights, in the family. The husband is still the head of the family, and there is inequality in inheritance, thus reproducing the sacred patriarchal and hierarchical order of family and society. Since Islamists entered the political arena in my country, as I was saying, since Islamists entered the political arena after the 2011 revolution, progress towards equality has slowed, undermining fragile gains that women have been able to make over time. They have countered the reforming voices in the Tunisian state. The good news, however, is that at the same time, everywhere in the world, we're experiencing an unprecedented wave of mobilization. Women are leading demonstrations for equal rights, parity, decriminalization of abortion, the protection of victims of gender-based violence, democracy and human rights. In Algeria, Lebanon, Iraq, Chile, and Poland as well. In Tunisia, thousands of women marched in 2018 in front of the National Assembly to demand equality in inheritance. Equality in terms of inheritance is a taboo subject in Muslim countries. It's a sin. It cannot be talked about. They came out into the streets to protest this, turning their back on the misogynistic discourse of Islamists, a discourse that is regressive and poisoning our country. They are at the heart of the protest movements against populist and totalitarian regimes everywhere. And with the worsening of the climate and resource crises, it is above all the youngest of women who are joining the climate mobilization, which is spreading around the world, heeding the call of the young Swedish woman Greta Thunberg, who has become the icon of a youth demanding radical change in environmental policies. These women, as diverse as their demands and their struggles, seek not only to realize their own rights, but to effect political and social change for all. In the diversity of this global feminist landscape, with its marvelous mobilizing force, I believe lies the world's only hope and opportunity to confront the global backlash, terrorism, injustice, and the forces of backwardness. Before closing, I would like to say a word to my colleague, my brother Luca Orlando, mayor of Palermo, who unfortunately could not join us in this magnificent hemicycle of the Portuguese Parliament. It is like a museum. I just wanted to say to him, Leo Luca, your relentless fight to protect and integrate migrants, to strengthen social and territorial cohesion, and to transform our cities into places of solidarity and inclusion. All of this makes you an example for millions of men and women throughout the world. I am all the more honored to be co-laureate of this award alongside you. As I myself was voted into office in municipal elections, I was vice mayor, and I believe, like you do, in the power of municipalities and citizens to rise to the challenge, to put an end to environmental degradation, the loss of green spaces, precariousness, corruption, exclusion of migrants, contributing to improving our quality of life. I am moved to reacquire a sense of civic responsibility, to impress on everyone the need to take responsibility, to make people aware that the municipality is each and every one of us. It isn't the mayor, it's each and every one of us. I believe in small actions and small silent revolutions, which little by little multiply until they become the norm. Thank you very much to all the members of the Council of Europe. Thank you to Portugal. Thank you to the Portuguese authorities for having granted me this honor. Thank you to the Council of Europe as well for shining a spotlight on the battles of civil society throughout the world. Many thank you also to all those men and women who have supported me throughout the years and who have made me want to continue. Thank you for your hospitality.
Thank you very much, Nabila Hamza. I now pass the floor to the laureate, Luca Orlando, who will be speaking to us from Palermo. You have the floor, sir. The interpretation has no sound. The interpreters have no sound from...
Okay. Good morning.
We now hear.
Oh, fine. Good morning. Good morning. I wish just, I must express my respectful regards and my gratitude, first of all, to the President of the Portuguese Republic, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, and I wish just to share the national mourning for the disappearance of Professor Eduardo Lourenço, a great philosopher, a great Portuguese that I appreciated, the world appreciated. Lourenço was really, really in the middle of the greatest philosophical European culture. And just in this moment, I remember Heidelberg and Hamburg, Kierkegaard and Heidegger, that were strongly connected with the experience of Lourenço, Eduardo Lourenço. I wish to say my respectful regards to Mr. President of the Assembly of the Republic, to Mr. President of the Assembly of the Council of Europe, to Madam Secretary General of the Council of Europe, to Mr. Chair of the North-South Center, to Mr. Ambassador of Italy, Carlo Formosa, to all the authorities, and of course, to Madam Vice President of the Municipality of La Marsa, sharing with me, Nabila Hamza, this privilege today. Today's ceremony is a source of great honor, emotion, and hope. And I wish to say thanks to the jury for the attention to my experience. It certainly is for me, but also for all those who for here, and especially in the recent difficult month, have been committed to promote and protect the rights of all, men and women, children, even persons who try to give guarantee for the human and civil rights, for fundamental and inalienable right to live. We take care, we have attention to the rights of women and their democratic participation in civil institutional life. This ceremony is a reason for hope because it proves the commitment of national and international institutions to reaffirm the culture and practice of human rights after extremely difficult years, even in Europe. In fact, in recent years, we have witnessed the return and strengthening of cultures and policies that have built and fueled social division and fear of the different, fear of the new, fear of the foreigner. In many countries, even in Europe, anti-democratic positions have emerged, building their own narrative and setting their own internal international policies precisely on the limitation of fundamental rights, even if recognized these rights by the treaties and the founding charters of European law. but as well before, the verbal and material extremism of some political positions, where we witnessed the more widely denial of fundamental rights, the construction of too often timid policies and the defense of the weakest, sometimes to choice that they have led to death, and mourning along all the borders of Europe, from the Mediterranean to the Balkans. When did migration stop being a right for a better life for yourself and loved ones? When did it become a concession or even a crime? When the word castaway, which for centuries has been synonymous with persons in difficulty to help, has turned into dangerous person to be rejected. How it is possible? In the world of total globalization and the freedom of movement of goods, capital and data, and today also of the virus, that the only ones whose mobility is controlled and curbed are the human beings. How it is possible? Today, however, we all have clear in mind that defending the rights of an individual, all the rights of each one, means defending our own rights, to affirm that we are all part of the global human community. Starting from a milestone awareness raising campaign conceived by the Council of Europe in the 90 years, in my city we created the Charter of Palermo, approved in 2015. All different, all equal. We are all different, we are all equal. That was the campaign of the Council of Europe, which affirmed with great foresight the need for globalization of rights and for equality, that was not stereotyped, that was not the denial for everyone's identities. With the Charter of Palermo, we have chosen to affirm that I am a person, we are a community. I am a person, each of us is a person, bearer of individuality, rights and duties, of their own history, their own culture, their own identity. But I am also a community. I am a part, always in any case, of the community in which I choose to live. And the community exists only as a union of minorities, a union of many identities, all different, I repeat, and all equal. As never happened before, the virus taught us that we are communities on a global level, that the too many and serious global challenges, there can be no response from individuals, be they individual states or even worse, individual groups. Never as today, it has been clear that the primary rights related to peace, health, freedom from hunger, freedom of expression are either guaranteed everywhere and to everyone or not guaranteed to anyone. This is despite efforts by some to hide the rights violation behind the physical or virtual worlds. This is despite the fact that some are still convinced that they can create in this globalized and interdependent world a separation between us and them that lasts over time. For this reason, in the Charter of Palermo, we launched the proposal, also juridical, that international mobility should be recognized as a human right, that the right to choose where to live should be recognized, as well as the right to choose where to try to build our own and loved one's future. In Palermo, in our small way and with the legal limits of a city that cannot legislate, we already apply this principle. If someone asks to me how many migrants there are in Palermo, I do not answer 50 or 100,000. I reply, no one. We have no migrants in Palermo. Who lives in Palermo is Palermitan. I make no distinction between who was born in Palermo, who lives in Palermo, because I think that we all are human beings, obviously. They are still not legally. They do not have Italian citizenship or passport. What a shame, may I tell you. But everyone has the right to access the services that the municipality offers to citizens, regardless of their legal status. Once again, the very hard experience of the health emergency for COVID-19 and the very hard one of the lockdown showed the supportive and welcoming face of Palermo during the explosion of the social crisis. The doors of the Catholic Church and the volunteers of Caritas, as well as the Valdesian Church, they welcomed the many Muslim Palermitans from Bangladesh or Tamil from Sri Lanka, the Association of Muslims who work in the historic Central districts have welcomed and helped the many small Italian professionals who have lost their jobs or their income overnight. Palermo is no the fear. Palermo is no the fear. The blood and the shame of the mafia and the system of power. And that's fought paying very high risks and prices. To first, we have affirmed the legality of law. Now, and for some years, and from some here in Palermo, we've been claiming and pursuing not only the legality of the law, but also the legality of the human rights. That human rights confirmed by democratic constitutions and by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, even if sometimes they are mortified. It is human rights by the law, by the laws of the states. But and today's ceremony confirms this, the Palermo experience is not isolated. With many other mayors of Italian and European cities, and the cities from all over the world, we have built a network of safe cities, of open ports. We have said that a city, to be safe, must take care of its citizens, of all the citizens. We have affirmed in every way we put into practice that insecurity is not fought with fear, but with the care of the people, a material care made up of service and immaterial care made of a culture of hospitality and solidarity. It is certainly the task of the mayors, and not only of the mayors, to pursue freedom from the fear of the new, from the fear of the different, taking care of the new and the different, taking care to be free from fear. And I wish just to say, greetings, with my greetings to other laureate, I wish just to say that I believe that the Mediterranean is not a sea dividing the people. Mediterranean is a continent of water, unifying the people. And we are together, La Marsa and Palermo, we are together, Navid Hamza and Luca Orlando, just sending a message to the whole Europe, to the whole world. Mediterranean wants has the possibility to change. To change is possible, despite what has written Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa in The Leopard. Sometimes the great writers write not useful things for the future of the world, remaining, of course, great writers. And I wish just to say thanks. Thanks to the ambassador, Carlo Formosa, who is present, and I wish to say thanks to all of you for this award, which I repeat, is not a prize to me, but to the many who have shared and share this path. The journey of Palermo and of many other cities becomes ever stronger. Having once again the Council of Europe, cultural and material lighthouse and the reference point. There is a traditional Sicilian expression saying, who was born round cannot die square. Wrong. Who was born round can even die square. It is possible even for the city to change. Palermo changed.
Thank you very much. Luca Orlando, our congratulations to you. And now we are going to hear the message of the President of the Portuguese Republic, who will be speaking to the laureates and to all participants at this ceremony.
Speaker of the House, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, President of the Portuguese delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, President of the Executive Committee of the North-South Centre, distinguished laureates, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. It's an honor and a pleasure, for reasons beyond my control this time virtually, to join you at the 2019 North-South Prize ceremony of this very important award. This is a symbol of peace, democracy, respect for human rights, and this year the prize pays homage to two singular human beings, Nabila Hamza from Tunisia, sociologist, an activist who defends women's rights, and Luca Orlando, mayor of Palermo, defender of migrants and refugees, two living examples of strength, conviction, who have defended and promoted the values of the Council of Europe. To you both, thank you very much. Nabila Hamza has an extraordinary journey behind her. She has promoted human rights, supported women, defended the rights of women. Remarkable efforts in promoting gender equality, access of women and girls to education, respect for the principles of human rights, every single one of them, which has led to her successively being recognized both in Tunisia and beyond. Nabila Hamza's example is a source of inspiration for all of those who continue to fight for equality, for justice, for equal treatment of women and men in terms of rights, freedoms, and guarantees, but also in terms of economic, social, and cultural rights. This is not yesterday's battle, it is today's battle and tomorrow's battle. It is a battle that is deserving of recognition. As for the second award winner, Luca Orlando, he sets an example in promoting the very same human rights and also human dignity in the way in which he has exercised his duties during his 2 terms of office as mayor of Palermo, always upholding freedom and tolerance, standing against discrimination, xenophobia, and intolerance in the treatment of migrants and refugees. This is also not yesterday's challenge. It is today's challenge and tomorrow's challenge. Inclusion, combating xenophobia, in the midst of today's unilateralism, protectionism, hypernationalism, the distinction between ours and theirs, between mine and yours, the questioning of the rule of law, and in the case of this particular award winner, the rule of law at municipal and local levels. 2 totally different journeys, distinct contexts, yet both laureates of this 2019 North-South Prize of the Council of Europe are ultimately united in the same battle for justice, freedom, and human dignity. They also inspire everyone else. They inspire all of those who, throughout the world and in Europe and in North-South relations, fight. They fight every day for the same values. And so it is with great pleasure that I congratulate the award winners and the jury who so wisely chose them. Allow me also to underscore how honored Portugal has been to host the North-South Centre in our country, illustrating from the outset Portugal's commitment to the Council of Europe and its values. It also shows a universalist tradition of openness to dialogue and our relationship with other peoples, cultures, and civilizations. This too is a challenge both now and for the future. Allow me also to welcome in particular the participation in the ceremony of the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, of Madam Secretary General of the Council of Europe. Welcome, Madam Secretary General. In this participation, I see a sign of the recognition of Portugal's dedication to the cause of those fighting for democracy and the primacy of the democratic state based on the rule of law.
We welcome to Portugal. Here, we fight for the same values, the same principles that really matter so much, and explain why those that received the prizes today were considered to be example for different generations in their fight for the women and their rights, for the migrants and refugees and their rights, for inclusion, for equality, for justice, for democracy, for the rule of law. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado a todos. Muito obrigado ao Conselho.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Council of Europe. And we have come to the end of the award ceremony. The session is adjourned. Thank you very much. Congratulations to the laureates.